This is a dance of power. On command, soldiers become performers in a spectacle choreographed to display the greatness of a monarch and a nation. In Japan, a nation's past comes to life in the time capsule of court ritual. Summoned by their king, Ashanti from around the world celebrate their solidarity as a people. Protocol in this Javanese court decrees that no one's head may be higher than the Sultan's. Throughout history, kings and queens, sultans and emperors have fortified their authority with ritual and spectacle, and the power of dance.
When we go to a production of a ballet or into a ballet school anywhere in the world, in New York or Paris or even Moscow, one marvels at the fact that it all looks very familiar and very much the same. And the question comes about, what is this tradition? Why does ballet look the same in Russia as it does in New York? This is something that can be traced back, in fact, to the time of Louis XIV.
Louis XIV was a great warrior king who understood the power of dance. He inherited the throne of France when the country was torn by civil and religious wars. Louis was determined to control the aristocracy and consolidate total power in himself. To do so, he built the great palace of Versailles. Nobles from throughout the land came here to live under one roof. To succeed at court, they had to be as well versed in dance as they were in the military arts. Louis XIV turned dance into a weapon of state.
In order to keep these nobles from fighting amongst themselves, possibly uprising against him, he devised a number of different events. The spectacles, which included dance, music, poetry, great stage scenery, were extremely important. And of course, in these great, wonderful operas, dance was used as a metaphor to reinforce the fact that Louis was the central figure and the keeper of the domain, so to speak. All of the dances, the couple dances that were so popular, begin with bows to the king. Where you stood in that line very much determined where your place in court was. And of course, the object for all of these nobles was to move higher and higher on that social ladder.
Et l'Académie royale de danse, c'est la première académie.
The Royal Academy of Dance was the first that Louis XIV founded. For the young king, it was a way to show his power. He made his mark with this first academy, a dance academy.
La première académie, la danse.
The men and women of nobility were expected to be models of elegance. For hours each day, courtiers took lessons from dance masters. They were required to be virtuosos and perform at a level we now expect only from professionals.
It was extremely important to be able to do these ballroom dances well. And we have a number of accounts of people who may have faltered on a step or two and being disgraced from court. And this was no laughing matter, because if you were disgraced from court, then you would have to come back on a much lower level and scramble your way back up the ladder again. So the idea of taking daily dancing lessons, if necessary, was something that courtiers learned from a very early age, that this was an important tool for bettering yourself in court.
Judgment at court could be swift and merciless, as in this eyewitness account of a royal ball.
The young man had been asked if he danced well, and he had replied with a smugness that made everyone eager to find fault. He was out of step from the start. He tried to hide his mistake by drooping to one side and waving his arms. This prompted laughter, which soon came in bursts and then turned to jeers. Everyone, even the king, laughed heartily. After that, he disappeared and did not show his face for a long time.
How-to manuals teaching the proper dance steps employed elaborate systems of notation. In these pages, the language of the new dance form, ballet, was systematically recorded. The court dances of France were emulated by kings and courtiers as far away as Sweden and Russia. Through the medium of dance, French ideals of civilized behavior spread throughout Europe. It was more than flattery when court artists depicted the King of France and his family as Greek and Roman deities. To bolster his claim that he ruled by divine right, Louis modeled his public image after Apollo, the sun god.
C'est une nouvelle religion.
It was like a new religion. Truly, one had to have total respect for the power of the king, which was almost superhuman.
The metaphors were not missed by the audience. They understood what these things represented. And it's like when you see the symbol of a Mercedes, you don't have to see the car, but you see that symbol and you instantly think, you know, luxury and richness and aristocracy. And Louis I don't think he realized what a good advertising executive he was, because when he appeared in such dances as in the Ballet de la Nuit, in which he took a number of roles, his last entrance was that of Apollo, the Sun King.
Attis, composed by Jean-Baptiste Lully, was typical of the spectacles danced by the king. The legacy of Louis XIV outlived the end of his reign, of his court, of the monarchy itself. Whatever other roles he played, Louis was, without question, ballet's first star. In the heart of downtown Tokyo, these serene grounds are the home of the world's oldest court. Secluded by walls of stone and protocol, the Emperor of Japan continues his age-old role as patron of the dance. Bugaku, the Japanese court dance, may be the oldest dance in the world. It took its present shape some 1,200 years ago. At that time, it was danced only by the emperor and his courtiers. Preserving the past is a sacred trust in Japan. It is also a family responsibility.
My family, Ono, goes back for 39 generations. This art is transmitted from fathers to their children, then to their grandchildren. The ritual training is carried out every day, so continuity has been maintained from generation to generation.
Bugaku displays Japanese ideals of courtly decorum. Ideals the Japanese still revere today. Precision, clarity, control. There can be nothing unseemly about the movement. From the top of the head to the base of the spine, the torso must be held perfectly erect. The dancers wear masks when portraying strong characters. To contort their faces would violate the rules of etiquette. Unlike the dances of Louis XIV, Bugaku was never meant to be seen outside the court.
In its long history, it has been what is called hidden music. It could not be performed before the public. Only after the Second World War could we show it for the first time, just within the last 40 years or so. In one way, the Japanese like new things and adopt new concepts. At the same time, it is fundamental to our culture to preserve old things.
In 1990, Emperor Akihito was enthroned as Japan's 125th emperor. He is chief priest of the Shinto religion. The word Shinto means continuity.
The emperor is the intermediary between the gods and humans. He conveys man's wishes to the gods of nature and the feelings of the gods to man. He stands in the middle.
Guests at the enthronement are invited to the Imperial household for a performance of Bugaku. Bugaku has been danced at every enthronement for over 1,000 years. The correct performance of the dance ensures the continuity of the cosmos. With such ceremonies, the emperor fulfills his duty of maintaining harmony in the universe. 4 dancers, dressed identically, perform the same movements facing east, west, south, and north. Repetition in music and dance affects time itself. If you repeat the same movements over and over, time goes on forever.
This is the sort of music that makes you feel peaceful. It's a wonderful experience for those who want to feel serene. I have a nice story to tell. I know someone who grew plants in a greenhouse. The plants did their best when either Mozart or Japanese court music was played. In ancient times, imperial families had many resources that they could devote to art. This was true in Florence and Austria and other places. Imperial families in Japan and China were just the same. When they were influential, when peace prevailed, art could thrive. That must be the same in any country.
In the palace of the Ashanti king, a festival begins at midnight. At dawn, the king sends his royal musicians into the streets to call his people to the great festival known as Ade Kese. The Ashanti Hene, king of the Ashanti people, has always been elected from the royal clan by a council of elders. Traditionally, to be chosen king, one had to be an excellent dancer. Ashanti chiefs from the West African nation of Ghana and throughout the world gather to pay homage to the king. To reaffirm their identity as a people, the Ashanti dance.
It's an expression of solidarity among the Ashanti people. But the basic meaning of it all is to say that, well, we're still going strong as a nation.
The gathering of the hierarchy is itself a choreographed event. Chiefs arrive in order of their importance at court. First are the junior chiefs, shielded from the sun by modest umbrellas. Senior chiefs announce their status with more impressive umbrellas. Talking drums are carried as symbols of exalted status. Each chief brings his praise singers, his drummers, and his dancers.
What happens is, if you are taught dancing and you know it properly, when you hear the drums, well, I don't know how, I think the Americans say, it does something to you. And the nearest English equivalent I can give, the inside of your head actually sweets you. It's just like tasting sugar, a certain kind of pride that you belong to a great people comes into you. You're not conscious of it, but it makes you move.
As the day progresses, over 50,000 Ashanti transform the grounds into one great dance floor. Priests of the traditional religion bless the occasion with their own dances. Opoku-Ware II represents a lineage that goes back 300 years. The first Ashanti was one of Africa's great warrior kings and a contemporary of Louis XIV. In time, the Ashanti came to dominate the entire region known as the Gold Coast.
They were successful, more successful than the others because they had gold and they had the means for getting the European weapons and were able to build an empire.
Chiefs signal their place in the hierarchy by the extravagance of the gold they display. Surrounded by their courtiers, dancers, and drummers, the chiefs wait their turn to pay homage to the king.
I would say the nearest to it in intention is Louis XIV. So there the focus was really on the king, well, as the Sun King. The focus is on the Ashanti, and he's being represented as a commander-in-chief, as a spiritual father. He must also show himself as a magnanimous kind of friendly person, easily approached, but whom you approach with a certain kind of deference. The Ashanti Hinis, one title which he is proud of is Jom Ne Achemewira, the patron, the master, the owner of our drum forms, of our singing forms, musical forms, and therefore of dance.
There are no restrictions on who can dance at court, but only the most able would dare to step forward in the presence of the king. If a dancer offends with inappropriate movements, the drummers immediately stop playing. The Ashanti call it drum censorship. Like court dance everywhere, Ashanti court dance is dignified, deliberate.
it aims at a certain kind of majestic movement with a dash of elegance in it. It must also be unhurried. In fact, when you try to hurry your movements, the drummers, while maintaining the rhythm, tells you, "Ohine nanti brebre." A king is more majestic when he walks slowly.
The hands speak an elaborate sign language.
The young man came, and he was dancing, expressing certain ideas. The young man turned around and saw his queen mother. And then the queen mother got moved. Then the queen mother said, "Don't go away. Be with me." After all, I'm queen mother. So he said, "Then I will dance in attendance." So this kind of dialogue went on, using dancing as an instrument for expressing some inner feelings which are very difficult to put into words. We are alive. We have the breath of God in us. And this is dance in itself, a celebration of the fact that we are alive.
For all its traditions, the Ashanti court is changing with the times. Today's king was chosen not for his dancing skills, but for his diplomatic skills as Ghana's former ambassador to Italy. In the middle of the festival, the ceremonial order is disrupted by the arrival of Ghana's Chief of State, Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings. His appearance, with an impressive military escort, is a reminder to the Ashanti of who holds real power in today's Ghana. Confronted with the challenges of the modern world, the Ashanti court, like royal courts elsewhere, is in peril. Its survival will depend on whether the people find in the court, in its songs and dances, the power not just of reminiscence, but of renewal. The palace of the Sultan in Jogjakarta is thought to be the still center of the universe. Sultan Hamengkubuwono X is heir to a throne that has withstood wave after wave of foreign invaders bearing arms and new religions. His court draws strength from a culture that constantly strives for balance and self-control. For centuries, these values have been displayed in the carvings of dancers on ancient Hindu and Buddhist temples. They can be seen today in the dances performed at the Islamic court of the Sultan. Even when subduing the forces of evil, the heroes of Javanese myth preserve an air of unruffled composure. At the heart of the Sultan's palace, the Royal Dance Pavilion is maintained in an atmosphere of profound tranquility.
At the palace, I have been entrusted with the responsibility to teach dance. I'm told that this glorious and beautiful dance is one of the sacred heirlooms left by our ancestors. I sincerely believe this. Although the outside world sees me as merely a servant doing a task given to me by His Royal Highness, I can proudly say that I'm perpetuating the legacy of our great ancestors. In this way, the dance continues to live.
Romo Saas is a dance master in the tradition of Louis XIV. He is creating a new dance for the Sultan, who has selected the theme, Unity in Diversity, a marriage between a Hindu king and a Buddhist queen.
5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2.
For centuries, sultans of Java have brought the most beautiful young women of the land to dance at court.
I have been dancing since I was very young. I've been studying with different teachers since I was 7 years old. The court environment was very nurturing. It played a major part in my desire to become a dancer.
menjadi seorang penari. Dengan demikian saya menari memang secara
Through dancing, I communicate with others on a physical level.
Berkomunikasi dengan orang lain itu menjalani hidup
When
saya
I dance,
dengan menari itu,
I'm also communicating with God.
dengan Tuhan.
Court dance in Java is a gift from the gods. To help ward off devastating storms and ensure rain for the rice harvest, an ancestor of the present sultan is said to have married the goddess of the South Sea. For their liaison, the sultan built a private water palace with underground passages leading from the sea. In return, the goddess presented him with a gift of tranquility, a dance performed by nymphs in the sea. The dance is called the Bedoyo. The 9 dancers are dressed identically as royal brides. In their unison movement, the 9 become one, a celebration of the selflessness that the Javanese value in everyday life.
Untuk menjadi seorang penari, tidak
It is not right for a dancer to stand out from the rest of the dancers or to become better than the others.
Atau menjadi lebih baik dari orang lain. Dan kalau penari itu mampu dengan teliti melakukan teknik.
Once the dancers have mastered the technique, they no longer appear as themselves when they are dancing.
Mengalami transformasi atau dia menari.
It's as if they have undergone a total transformation. They are no longer seen as individuals, but as something other.
Mengenali dia sebagai sesuatu yang lain.
Today, most Javanese are Muslims in a land that has been both Buddhist and Hindu. Over the centuries, Java has been invaded by India, China, Portugal, Spain, Great Britain, Holland, and Japan. Throughout their history, the Javanese have sought ways to reconcile differences. The essence of Bedoyo is balance. In the midst of constant upheaval, the Javanese cultivate a sense of equilibrium through dance.
The ultimate goal of the dancers is to achieve balance between body and soul. This is how I describe the Bedoyo.
Anak saya yang kebetulan semuanya putri.
All 4 of my children, they are all girls, have danced the Bedoyo. One day, my oldest daughter had a very unusual experience dancing the Bedoyo. As the music began, she saw a ghostly group of dancers appearing from the sacred treasure house. There were the same number of ghostly dancers as those who were actually dancing. In other words, while the 9 women were dancing, another 9 appeared. But only my daughter could see them. She could see them, but she was not afraid. Instead of feeling fear, she felt joy. She felt protected and blessed as she danced along with them.
Dan merasa juga direstui. Dia menari pada waktu itu.
This dance has served as a royal entertainment, but it is sometimes performed without an audience, as an offering to the forces that control Java's destiny. The power of court dance to reflect Javanese values almost led to its own destruction. In 1945, the many islands that make up Indonesia united and won independence from the Dutch. To turn his people's loyalties away from the island of Java and toward the new nation of Indonesia, the reigning Sultan of Yogyakarta suspended all cultural activity at his palace, nearly killing the centuries-long tradition of court dance. But the Javanese realized that it was crucial to their well-being to preserve their culture. The ban on court dance was lifted.
Cerita-cerita Bedoyo itu adalah khusus cerita yang menyangkut masalah sejarah.
Bedoyo stories contain our history and legends.
Suatu kurun waktu yang dianggap oleh Keraton Yogyakarta
The stories come from an older time which the court of Yogyakarta considers to have great meaning and must be remembered.
Tentu yang perlu diingatkan kembali.
Today, the court and its dances are open to all. It is not wealth or weaponry that keeps royal courts alive today. Courts survive when they embody values that people cherish in their own lives.
I would be very pleased to see many people learn Javanese dances, especially people from Java and Indonesia, but even people from overseas. I'm proud to say that we have many foreign students. I don't want to set any limits. Everyone is welcome.
As dancers from around the world come to Java to study, the Bedoyo, like ballet, takes on a life beyond the confines of the court. French dancing masters could not have imagined, as they spread the gospel of ballet in the name of Louis XIV, that the reign of monarchs would end, while the dance of kings would continue through so many centuries of social change.
I would say, speaking of the dance of Louis XIV, it's a little like Latin. On the surface, it's a dead language, but in fact, it is the root of our modern language. In today's French, 70% of the words are Latin words. In the history of classical dance, we find the same relationship.
My children, one of them was born in London, the others were born in Accra. I've been trying to get them to come to Kumasi to visit their relatives. They said no. Now imagine the next generation. Nobody's going to sit around, learn this, and come and do it. I think that the old people do believe that these rites are necessary. The intensely proud of the Ashanti tradition.
Court dance should be frozen, as in a museum. It should be carefully preserved and handed down. It is a part of Japanese culture, and culture is the kind of thing that once lost, it is impossible to restore.
Посмотрели все направо в окошечко. И раз. Назад не падаю, выше подъемчики от пола. И по первой раз всей стопой провела. Вытянула колени. И 3. взглянула четвертая хорошая. И стопу не косить. Света, ручкой спереди. Света, живот. Света, не падай назад вообще. И раз, загляни. Спинки прямые. Вздохнуть вместе с ножкой.
Court dance the world over represents ideals of order, decorum, and rare beauty. No matter who we are or where we live, we are heirs to an aristocracy of movement, established in the courts of sultans and emperors and kings.
Awesome.